All right, it is June 6th, and I'm gonna spend the next 10 days talking about this. So, title, first of all, I'm using this pen as a pointer because it has no other function, even though it's really expensive. Anyways, this is the title, as you saw, and it's very good clickbait. Sounds very good. So, if you want the TLDR of how to do this, it is basically be this and then assign yourself all these titles. Just open a restaurant, just take the test to be a sommelier, and just give yourself the title of those two. And that's how you do all of that. And you don't even need to be 28 to do that. You could be 15 years old and you just got a ton of money from your parents, and that's how you did it. Anyways, I'm gonna tell you my story of how all of this stuff happened. And hopefully I'm not a fake chef or whatever. I'm probably not a pastry chef either, but I'm gonna do the desserts myself and I'm gonna kind of pick the wines. So we'll see if there's a little imposter syndrome in there or not. But yeah, the idea for this came up on the Next Level Chef interview because they want you to sum up what you are in like 30 seconds. So my thing was blah, 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 blah. I own restaurants. And then the interviewer asked the question of how did this happen? And then I told her that answer, and it just kept devolving into all these tangents that would take way too long to explain. So, and also a lot of the stories that I was telling her, she was very like on the edge of her seat, like, oh, and then what happened and whatever. So I started thinking, why would people want to watch this channel to hopefully do this, to either open a restaurant or be a chef, be rich, all that stuff. Anyways, I thought there's too many, like if I start from late and then I go backwards, it's kind of the understanding of how it happened is backwards. So I'm gonna start by age and then go down. So I have little brackets here. It goes up to 16 so far. So I think these three things, finance, cooking, and ways of thinking, is what led to becoming a multimillionaire. So I'm gonna erase this stuff. Oh, you see this thumb? It means like. That's a really big thumb that I drew. Anyways, we'll erase this. We'll leave the title there. So this is 0. These are just kind of when it happened, but I'll add 16 to 28 up here later. I'm just gonna talk through from 0 up to here. So when I think about personality, my type is INTJ. It makes you think, were you born that way, or is it nature versus nurture? Like, did you develop it from your parents or something, or were you just always meant to be that way? And I would say a little bit of both. I'm gonna cross this out so I know that I talked about it already. So my birthday is on June 28th. It's actually the same birthday as Elon Musk. So like as far back as I can remember, or there was this story of when there's gonna be a whole bunch of stories, and that's basically what this is. There's gonna be 10 days of stories. So when I was in like 3rd grade, the teacher told us we're going on a field trip to the zoo. And don't ask me why, but I kept asking all of these what if questions. Like, what if it rains, and what if this, and what if this. And then the teacher actually like wrote a note to my parents, like something, just something negative about me always asking what if this happens, or what if this happens. And funnily enough, it did rain when we went to the zoo. And another thing that happened was we're eating lunch under this like banyan tree, which is like multiple trees that like cover this whole field. And this bird pooped on my head, and there's birds pooping all over everyone else's heads too, but it pooped on my head. The teacher took, and you know, I was like a 5 or 6 year old or something. I don't know how old I was, but I was young. But the teacher had to take me to the bathroom and then wash my hair, and we came out, and then another bird pooped on my head again. I got pooped on like 3 times. And that wasn't one of my what if questions. So, yeah. Anyways, makes me wonder how much of this stuff is built into it when you're 0 years old. That's why I wrote it as 0. It's not something that happened like it wasn't a development of character. I think it like these are fundamental roots of a person's character. And my thing is running out of, it's out of ink. Anyways, so I have a Kmart story. So this one is more relevant to the cooking. This is like the first, well, let me start with this one actually. So when I was young, probably like a baby still in a high chair, my mom would sit me on the kitchen counter, and then I would just sit there and watch her cook. I don't know if that's what was part of the nature versus nurture of me wanting to cook, but I think based on everything I heard, that's probably like the first hint I had into wanting to cook. And when I was young, my mom used to always cook food for us until she got a job when I was maybe 9 years old or something. Then it was just frozen food from Costco beyond that point. But before that, every day when I come home, there's food at like 3 or 4 p.m. when I get home. So, yeah. I think that was a very impactful part of why I wanted to become a professional cook, is because subconsciously when I was young, that was put in front of me. So, Kmart story. This is one that I actually told on the interview. So, when I was young, my parents would take us to, not us, just me, my sister wasn't born yet, would take me to Kmart, and they would just leave me in the, we would like walk in the front door, and I would just go on my own towards the kitchen and cooking aisle. And then I was too young to remember, but they always told me, oh, you used to just go straight over there, and then you would start pulling down. I pulled down all the pots and pans and utensils, and then I'll just sit on the floor and then pretend to cook with like surrounded with pots and pans. It's like I was cooking on the line or something, and just imaginary stirring things. And they would go shopping for like 1 to 2 hours and then come get me, and then I wouldn't want to leave because I wanted to play with all the shiny equipment and stuff like wooden spoons and spatulas and whatever. So I think that was my first clue as to how I was influenced. I don't know, maybe I always wanted to cook anyways, but I think cooking is something that is picked up from, there's a reason you want to cook. You're not born to cook. There's subconscious hints dropped into you when you're young or something that had you eventually end up cooking. This is the zoo story. Alright, so I'm going to talk about Neopets now. I remember when I was very young, Neopets was like my first online game, because you know, you play Tetris and whatever, and that's like, there's no interaction with other people. But this was like, what is this thing? There's games, and there's free stuff every day and all that stuff. I think this is my first look into the world of finance, because if you think about playing the games and earning Neo points, that's basically like an hourly job. You take a certain amount of time to play a game, and then depending on how well you do, you make a certain amount of Neo points. And when I was young, I was very bad at making and saving Neo points. I would always make like 10K and then spend it on things, make 10K, spend it on things. I would never actually get rich. And my cousins had like hundreds of thousands to millions because they saved a lot. Also, they're older, so they're probably better at saving. And yeah, I think that's where like the very root of things started. Like there was a bank where you could put money in and invest, and then it would give you interest every day and that type of stuff. I think games are very good for learning how to do things. Every game has, especially with kids, because to make them do homework, it's so hard. You have to force them to do it. But if it's fun for them, they'll willingly do something for 16 hours. And as long as there's something functional about it, they're learning something. Like there's an economy in Neopets, there's hourly work, there's which one do you play, which one's more efficient, which one's fun but you don't make that much money, or which one's not fun and you make more money, and that kind of thing. So well, we covered the first two sections, and I think that was 10 minutes. We'll see you tomorrow.